The year is 2021, and one of my goals is growing Memm to 10,000 users by the end of the year. We're only 1/10 of the way there, but here's why I think it'll happen. And if you're interested in starting your own online business, this will be helpful. What's going on, guys? For those of you who are new here, my name is Kevin Jubal, physician entrepreneur based in Las Vegas, formerly in plastic surgery. Memm is an MCAT study tool that we launched August 1st of 2020. And since then, we've had 2,000 people sign up, about 950 of which have been paying customers. So first, how do we get here? We launched in August, but prior to that, we had been working on Memm for a long time, over a year, closer to 2 years actually. And we did a lot of alpha and beta testing, and we had people sign up for free. They used the product, at least in the earlier versions, and gave us feedback. The key thing is that testing is more important than going with your gut. It's not about having this brilliant idea and then just running and making it and then the world's gonna love it. You have an idea, you then test it, and based on the data you get, you then refine it, change it, because what you think customers want isn't often exactly what customers actually want. I did dozens and dozens of user interviews, so if you're one of those people that's watching right now, big thank you, because your feedback, your needs, your requests, your ideas, we compiled all of that, and that really helped shape the direction and trajectory that we took with Memm. Now, what changes were made since August? Well, when you have a product that people have to pay for, you actually get different feedback. So first of all, we had a lot of people sign up in the first month, and we had a lot more people providing feedback, but also paying customers are harder to please. If you give someone a free trial and they give you feedback, they're gonna be happier because it was free for them. But with a paying customer, they're gonna be giving you more incisive feedback. So we focused on fixing errors, we improved the search functionality, adjusting the scheduling algorithm, changing the intervals, improving the images, and of course, integrating Memm with the Med School Insiders MCAT course. That is not fully out yet. We're still finalizing the MSI MCAT course, but your Memm subscription includes free access to the science sections of the MSI MCAT course, at least parts of them. So that is live. All right, now where are we going? There are two big things that I'm learning with Memm. The first is heavily relying on the lean startup methodology and fundamentals. I can't believe you can buy these two books, right? Or this whole series of books, the Lean Startup and Running Lean, are the two that I read and found very useful, because just the value they can provide for someone starting an online business is tremendous. Like the ROI I received on that $20, $30 investment was massive. And also the Y Combinator free lectures that you can actually see on YouTube, and I'll link those down below. The second thing is the power of a B2C SaaS. So B2C stands for business to consumer, meaning a business is selling to the end user, which would be someone studying for the MCAT, rather than a B2B, or business to business, like one business selling software to another business. SaaS means software as a service, and this means when you are selling a subscription-based online service. Memm isn't a true SaaS because you pay upfront for a given length of subscription. A true SaaS would be a monthly subscription that just automatically renews every single month until the user cancels. But the really magical thing, the really cool thing about B2C SaaS is as you get more and more users, yes, you'll have a little bit more work. You'll get more feedback, you'll have more support requests, etc. But it doesn't grow linearly with the number of users you have. So you can really rapidly scale it. And this is super powerful for those who are busy or really value their time. So after ironing out all of these larger concerns from the first few months, the question then arises, okay, where do we go next? And this brings us to Superhuman, a really popular email client. I've personally never used it, but there's this awesome blog post about it, and essentially how they found product market fit. Product market fit essentially means how strongly does the product address the market's needs and demands. You have to get product market fit right before you try scaling a business. If you try growing it before you have secured product market fit, you're gonna spend a lot of time spinning your tires, staying in place. You're not gonna actually grow as much. It's gonna be a lot of wasted effort. So how do you assess product market fit? In this article, they talk about this really brilliant idea, which is sending out a survey, right? So you don't want to just go based on your feel or just like, oh, this seems to be product market fit. How can you actually measure it? How can you quantify? How can you test it? And in this survey, you want to ask people, if you could no longer use our product, how would you feel? Not disappointed to very disappointed. And the key thing here is the percentage of your current users who select very disappointed. But if that number of users who would be very disappointed, if they could no longer use your product, is greater than 40%, you're very likely to have traction. So we conducted our own survey and we asked these questions. First, how would you feel if you could no longer use Memm? Not disappointed, somewhat disappointed, or very disappointed. 2, please explain why you selected that answer. 3, what's your favorite thing about Memm? And 4, how can we improve Memm for you? So again, you want at least 40% of people to say they would be very disappointed. That means they love your product. And if they don't, back to the drawing board, figure out what you could do that would really help secure product market fit. And I'm happy to say that in our survey response, we had 80% of people select they would be very disappointed. So this made us, of course, very excited because this indicates, it's a very strong indicator that we have strong product market fit. And we have other things that confirm this. We've had a lot of glowing reviews. We've had people reach out to us from out of the blue. You know, we didn't prompt them. They just emailed us telling us how great their experience was. And we've even highlighted some of these experiences on a new blog series called User Stories, where I interview a user and they essentially tell us their experience studying for the MCAT, their pitfalls, what they learned, what worked, what didn't, stuff like that. And you can find that at memm.io/blog. So what does this mean? We got product market fit, we're excited. Are we done? Not quite. Based on the survey, you want to then look at the 3 categories, right? Based on how disappointed they were. The people who were very disappointed, figure out what they loved and double down on that. Really make that even stronger in your product. The people who were somewhat disappointed, figure out what changes they would want that would get them from somewhat disappointed to very disappointed. And for those who are not disappointed at all, they're kind of a lost cause. You're unlikely to get them from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. So they're probably just not your target audience. So as for the users who loved using Memm and would be very disappointed, some of the key things that came up were they love the content refinement, the user experience, the ease of use, the comprehensiveness, the review sheets, the quality of flashcards, and so on. So to us, this means we really need to double down on improving the content and the user experience in whatever way possible. So we've already been focusing a lot on the content. That was one of the core philosophies from the very beginning, figuring out what the MCAT includes, what it doesn't, refining the content, making the flashcards as effective as possible. But now at this point, what we can really focus on to improve the experience is getting those higher quality images. So again, we hired professional designers and we started off with these free images that are good and they include most of the information. But with these professionally designed images, we can make it much cleaner, consistent theme, and then really choose and highlight what information we want and what information we want to remove from the images so that it is highly targeted to those studying for the MCAT. Now, the users who were in that second group of somewhat disappointed, a common theme that came up was them wanting to create their own flashcards. Now, this is kind of a tricky thing because one of the main core value propositions of Memm is that it already has really high quality flashcards made. And the overwhelming majority of students do not make good flashcards. I'm not just saying that because of Memm. I've maintained that for years, even on the Med School Insiders channel. Making good flashcards is really, really difficult. And you'll see even really big popular YouTubers, you see them making flashcards or making tutorials and they're actually not good flashcards. And the reason this is important is that the quality of the flashcard, you're doing hundreds, thousands of repetitions of these flashcards, usually at least a couple hundred every day. It adds up really quick. And a card being 20% more effective or 30% less effective, that's gonna add up tremendously over time. So that's one of the core reasons Memm is so effective, because the flashcards are really precisely made. I made a video on the Med School Insiders channel talking about the 13 principles of making good quality flashcards, and it's tough. I was using Anki for 5 years consistently, through all of med school and through residency, and even I struggled to make good quality flashcards consistently for Memm. I had to go back and refine them, sometimes do that a few times to get a card from mediocre to really good. But that's again what that second group wants, so we are going to deliver that. But the caveat is that it's designed for just a few cards, because essentially everything you need to know for the MCAT is included, at least for the science sections, in those flashcards in the review sheets. But if a user is really struggling with a couple concepts, they can make 10, 20, 30 cards here on the side to really emphasize those weak points that they have. Now let me clarify. After securing product market fit, that doesn't mean that we stop trying to improve the product. It just means that in the past, maybe we were spending 90% of our time and effort on improving the product. But now we can spend 40 or 50% of our time and energy on improving the product and more time on other things like growth and marketing. Which brings us to the next point, growing the company. Now, all three of us co-founders, we're really heavily invested in growing Memm and in this for the long run. And we're barely paying ourselves at all. We're actually taking all of the proceeds and reinvesting back into the business. First is improving the product. That means hiring engineers, specifically software developers, as well as designers to improve the content and improve just the functionality. So those engineers right now are working on a tutor dashboard. So tutors who want their students to use Memm can do so on a single dashboard. Number two is advertising and growth. The two key things right now are number one, Google Ads, and number two, content. We're doing all of our own content right now, and between making these videos, plus Med School Insiders videos, plus blog posts on MSI, and blog posts on Memm, it is a lot, so we are going to be outsourcing this and recruiting some help. If you want to do some part-time content writing about the MCAT, then shoot me a Instagram DM and include some links to examples of your writing. And number three is education and coaching. I'm obviously a huge proponent of this because it has served me tremendously well in my own life. And we're doing the same thing here with investing in education and coaching when it comes to growth and marketing for Memm. So a few days ago, I actually signed up for this growth and marketing course and coaching program. So it's an online course. It has a lot of information written by the experts, plus one-on-one coaching with those experts. And the idea here is that even though it's expensive, it's going to be a positive ROI. Spending that money, it's going to give me the knowledge and the coaching such that the business is going to make much more than the cost of that. And I'll keep you guys updated on what I'm learning and if it's worth it. If it is worth it, then you'll see me recommending it here in the future on this channel. One of the core things from this course that I'm learning so far in terms of how to even think about the framework of this is it comes down to two things: acquisition and conversion. Acquisition is how potential users are even aware of your product. So that could be Google Ads, that can be YouTube videos like this, that can be word of mouth, that can be blog posts, Instagram ads, Facebook, etc., etc. And there's a lot of strategy on which platform you use, the pros and cons. And a certain business type will find more value in one form of acquisition or marketing versus another. And each business is going to have certain acquisition channels that are more beneficial. For example, we may benefit more from Google Ads and Instagram ads and YouTube, whereas some other company that sells shoes may benefit more from Instagram and Facebook ads. Conversion is the idea of once someone is aware of your product, how many of them actually convert? They sign up for a free trial or they pay for a subscription. At the beginning, you want to get this mostly right for obvious reasons, but as you grow, you really want to pay a lot of attention and even optimize the 1 or 2% here and there. Because if you have 10, 20, 100,000 people visit your website in a given month, and your conversion rate goes from 2 to 3%, that's a massive difference in terms of the bottom line. So to do this, we've already been refining the Memm website. We've been changing the text, the copy is what they call it, on the heading, the subheading, the various buttons, changing the colors, the layout of where should the testimonials go, stuff like that. Now, again, you want to go back to testing. You may have some intuition about what's going to work, what's not, and for those things that are very obvious, just go ahead and make those changes. But for most things, you want to test and have data. So you do what's called A/B testing. And we essentially have two versions of the website that are live at any time. And a user visiting the website is randomly assigned to group A or group B. And group A may have a blue button, and then group B may have a red button. And then if you have enough users actually visit the site, let's say over 1,000, then you have enough data to actually say which one of these options is better for conversion. All right, last, why even do all of this? It sounds like a lot of work, and yes, it really is, but I believe it's totally worth it. I am obviously not an expert on any of this stuff. As you can tell, I'm learning this and I'm taking you on this journey with me, but I'm learning, and that's the whole point. It's fun. And in this day and age, if you want to get started with an online business, it's an amazing time. You can buy these lean startup books. You can watch the Y Combinator. I mean, that $20 or $30 I spent on those books was like the best business investment that I have ever made. And if you're afraid of the cost, there are ways to get started on the cheap. That's one of the core philosophies of the lean startup methodology. The real cost is essentially just your time. Now, I don't actually know if Memm is going to be as successful as any of us want, but that's not really the point. No matter what happens, it's exciting and a great learning opportunity. And that's the key thing here. The early stage of any company is really exciting because there's all these possibilities of what it could be, and we can do this and that, and like, oh, what about this possibility, and the growth and the excitement and helping people, and it's awesome. But it also gets you into that learning state. And that's the state when we're kids, we're all curious, and many of us lose it as we get older. But entrepreneurship puts you back into that state. And I think that is so valuable and so rewarding. If you want to know more about Memm, check out this playlist. And if you want to know more about entrepreneurship, check out this playlist. Much love, and I'll see you guys in that next one.